Welcome, everyone. It'll probably just be another minute as everyone joins us. Thank you so much. Just a reminder to please keep your cameras off and your microphones off. Okay, just getting started here. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. For those of you who don't know me yet, my name is Sari. I am the Public Programs Director of MOFAD. This is a really exciting program we're doing. I'm sure most of you who have signed up probably have experienced burlap and barrel spices before, and probably that's why a lot of you are here. And for those of you who have not, this is definitely going to be a treat. You are probably going to want to go and order all of their spices as soon as this program's over. Okay, I think we're good to get started. Like I said, my name is Sari. I'm the Public Programs Director at MOFAD, which is the Museum of Food and Drink. Welcome to everyone. Great to meet all of you who are joining for the first time, who found us through Burlap and Barrel. If you would just kindly keep your cameras off and your microphones off while we go, that would be great. It's because we just want to make sure that all eyes are focused on our panelists this evening. Without distractions. So I appreciate your cooperation in that. A lot of our programs, I ask you to hold your questions until the end. For this program, it's going to be a little different. Ethan is going to be talking to us about Burlap and Barrel, and we're going to meet Dũng and Thành, who are in Vietnam right now. You can probably see them at the top of your screen. They're at their pepper farm in Vietnam, which is amazing. And we also have Phuc, who is joining us tonight from Washington, D.C. She is generously spending the evening with us so she can help translate the English for Dũng and Thành. So you are welcome to ask questions via the chat box tonight. So if you have questions that come up during the program, you're welcome to type them in the chat box. And then kind of throughout, periodically, Ethan will try and get to your questions. And then there'll be like some reserved time at the end to maybe answer any questions that he didn't get to throughout his presentation. So yes, that's about it. I just want to remind you to please keep your cameras off and your videos off. I'm going to send you an email tomorrow. So if you didn't order the spices from Burlap and Barrel, I will make sure you have the links because you are definitely going to want to do that. We are going to meet pepper farmers tonight. And for those of you who ordered the spice add-on, you are actually going to be meeting the pepper farmers who made and cultivated the pepper that was included in your spice box. So it's super exciting. I'm also going to send you links to sign up for our newsletter because those of you who are new, we have online programs all the time, like every single week. So it would be great to have you join us for more. We have 2 next week that are both celebrations of Indigenous food sovereignty. One is more of a film screening and conversation, and one is a cooking demo. So we're always doing really interesting, unique programming, and it would be great to have more of you join us if you haven't before. Okay, I'm going to shut up and go away for a while. And I'm going to turn things over to my friend, Ethan Frisch, who is the co-founder of Burlap and Barrel.
All right, thanks, Sari. This is really exciting. This is really unprecedented for us. Normally, we spend a lot of time traveling and spending time with our partner farmers in person. Obviously, it's not feasible at the moment, and so we had been meeting with farmers on Zoom or other online platforms, and realized that this would be a fun way to bring all of you to the farm, and maybe even more importantly, bring the farmers to you. I'm going to talk a little bit about the spice trade in general, how it works, where spices come from, but we're going to spend the bulk of our time tonight talking to Dũng and Thành, who are, as you can see, our partner pepper farmers in Vietnam. Phuc, who's also on the line, who's going to help us translate, is really the reason that we're in touch with them in the first place. Phuc and I and my co-founder Ori were traveling in Vietnam last year. Actually, Phuc, why don't you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about how we met them for the first time.
Hi everyone. My name is Phuc. I live in Baltimore, and it's just one of my greatest thing that I can introduce you guys with the the farmer who like younger generation who love environment, who love agriculture and want to go back to the farm, to their hometown and then being the farmer and growing the stuff that the best quality. And I'm so happy that I somehow that connecting me with Ethan and Ari for Burlap Barrel to help they can find some of the best spicy from Vietnam that we can introduce to you guys.
And just a little bit of background on me and Burlap Barrel. We're a single origin spice company, a public benefit corporation. We work directly with smallholder spice farmers in a dozen different countries, including Vietnam, working with farmers like Dung and Tang, who are growing really some of the best pepper I've ever tasted. And as Phuc mentioned, there's a cohort of farmers around the world who are growing things that are really special, whether they're heirloom varieties, whether it's something to do with the way that they're cultivating the pepper or other spices that they grow. And we'll talk more to Dung and Tang about that in their particular case. Something about the processing that happens post-harvest. Most of the spices that we eat every day are grown on small farms, grown by smallholder farmers who have been backed into a corner in a lot of ways by the commodity market, where prices are just pushed down as low as they possibly can. Farmers make a fraction of the final value of the product that they sell. And it's really ultimately an unsustainable system. It's a system that doesn't work for farmers who don't make a lot of money. It's the system that doesn't work for cooks, for consumers like me, like yourselves, who are looking for high quality products. You know, farmers are being incentivized to decrease the quality so that they can lower the price. So it doesn't work for us. And to be honest, in most cases, it doesn't work for the company in the middle either, because it just, the supply chain is so inefficient, takes forever, potentially years, for a spice to get from the farm to your kitchen. And there just really isn't a whole lot of understanding about that supply chain among consumers. So what we're trying to do at Burlap Barrel, I should say what we are doing, we've been doing for 4 years, is building better supply chains, finding farmers like Dung and Tang who are growing something really, really special, setting them up to export their own crops for the first time, importing their products into the US, and making them available to you, to restaurants, to anybody else who is interested in better spices. I'm just going to talk briefly about how the pepper trade in particular works, because pepper is the most consumed spice on earth. Vietnam alone produces half a million tons a year, just insane volumes, mostly grown on small farms that get consolidated and consolidated and consolidated. So farmers will sell to a local broker, a middleman of some kind, who's buying from a dozen or a few dozen farms. That person is collecting those spices, selling them on to somebody else with a warehouse or a truck to bring them down the mountain, who's selling it on to somebody else, selling it on to somebody else. So nobody knows where their spices have come from, because they've changed hands so many times. And likewise, farmers have no idea where their spices go. Once they sell to that first middleman, that's the end of the story for them. They don't know what happens to the thing, to the plant, the crop that they harvested. They don't know who uses it or how. And so it's just not a great supply chain. Almost all pepper in the world is harvested underripe, and once we get to look at the pepper itself on the vine, you'll see what that means. But it's harvested underripe because it's got a longer shelf life. That's really the only reason. It's a stronger flavor that lasts longer. It's not about nuance or anything like that, which you do get as the pepper ripens, and we'll talk a little more to Dung and Tang about that. All right, so I'm going to stop talking now. Phuc, would you ask Dung and Tang to introduce themselves? You're muted.
Ok. Anh Thành và Dũng có thể giới thiệu một chút về mình, về cái farm được không ạ?
Farm thì nói chung là mọi người đều biết tới là nó từ Việt Nam, còn hai anh em thì ở khác huyện nhưng cũng chung ở Đắk Lắk thôi. Hình thành thì bắt đầu từ năm 2013. Tuổi thì em giới thiệu đi. Bao nhiêu tuổi? Mình thì tên Thành, năm nay 33 tuổi. Dũng năm nay 25. Xuất phát chung thì hai anh em đam mê nông nghiệp nên là có chung quan điểm về nông nghiệp rồi hai anh em cùng hợp tác thôi. Ok em.
Okay. So this is two young farmer from Vietnam. Is from the Central Highland. It's called Dak Lak Province. It's like all mountain in like the west of Vietnam, kind of near Laos. And they started farm from 2013 when they moved to the university in Saigon, and then they want to move back to the hometown and start being the farmer. And Dũng and Thành is just love agriculture and want to be the growing the product that clean and fresh and help to save the environment. And that's why they work together and have a pepper farm together.
Would you ask them to talk a little bit about how they got into pepper farming and why they decided to grow pepper in the very particular, the very special way that they do?
Okay. Anh Thành và Dũng có thể cho mọi người biết là tại sao hai người lại chọn là trồng hạt tiêu và lý do gì làm cho hai người muốn trồng hạt tiêu và không phải là một loại khác?
Tại vì cái khí hậu thổ nhưỡng ở chỗ bọn em thì rất là phù hợp với cái tiêu, và cùng với cái làn sóng khoảng từ năm 2010 đến năm 2014 thì giá hồ tiêu trên thị trường rất là cao á, và người dân thì họ canh tác tiêu bằng hóa chất nên nó cứ bị bệnh và chết. Thì bọn em có một cái suy nghĩ là làm sao mà để trồng lại cái tiêu theo một cái hướng bền vững để nó đảm bảo cuộc sống nhưng mà vẫn không bị chết, không bị phụ thuộc. Nên rồi từ từ bọn em bắt đầu làm và kiểu thấy có hứng thú với cái tiêu nhất á, nên muốn phát triển nó hơn các loài cây khác, vì nó cũng là một trong những loài cây trồng thuộc dạng rất là khó.
Good.
Yeah, xong rồi.
Because at where they live, where the hometown is the weather, and because the mountain and all the like the soil is really good for the pepper plant can grow. And from 2010 to 2014, from 2010 to 2014, the price of the peppercorn is really high in Vietnam. But people been using so much chemical, and then they make the peppercorn plants would die, like the whole fields would die. And then Dũng and Thành start learning about like doing the organic and like with no chemical and stuff from like internet. And then they tried a new way to save the plant and save the plant of the peppercorn. And then they want to develop and want people to growing more with the safe way and safe environment. And that's why they start with the peppercorn. And peppercorn is kind of difficult plant to grow because they're easy to die, and they only live about 10 to 15 years with the with like organic, with like no fertilizer, like bad fertilizer stuff. But if you use the chemical to fertilizer them, only grow for like 3 to 5 years, and then the plant would die. And they see in the soil is the when they use the chemical to growing the peppercorn, they kill all the insect and the bird and stuff, so that is bad for environment, and they want to do something different for them hometown.
So the tall green pillars behind them, those are trees with pepper vines climbing up them. One of the things that's unique about their farm, about this farm that we're all visiting right now, is that they grow their pepper vines up living trees, which is a better way to do it. Better for the soil, better for the vine itself, for the quality of the pepper too, I think. Most of their immediate neighbors, I mean, even the farms directly across the street from them, use either concrete poles or bamboo poles stuck into the ground. And they do that for a lot of reasons. It allows you to control the height. As you can see, the pepper vines that they have here are really tall. And so they can be challenging to harvest. You got to get all the way up on a ladder to do it. But they're committed to it, and their farm does better as a result. Phuc, would you ask them to walk us around the farm and show us some close-ups of the vine itself?
Sure. Dũng, anh Thành và Dũng có thể quay đằng sau cho mọi người xem được cái cây tiêu và quay chậm chậm để mọi người nhìn cho kỹ á. Từ gốc ngọn vào đất này kia cỏ á.
Anh bắt đầu quay hả?
So you'll see as we get closer to the pepper vines, the peppercorns grow in little bunches. They look like grapes. That's their puppy right there. There you go. Perfect. And there'll be usually two or three pepper vines climbing around a single tree. So 2 or 3 separate plants. And then these are the green peppercorns themselves. They're about halfway through the ripening process at this point. They'll be ready to harvest early next year. So the peppercorns grow in little bunches. What most people don't realize is that a peppercorn has two components. There's the skin of the peppercorn and the pit of the peppercorn. The skin is the fruit of the peppercorn. So as it ripens, so these are the flowers, the peppercorn flowers that haven't been pollinated yet. It's a little hard to see. Phuc, would you ask them to get closer to those stalks without the peppercorns on them?
Anh Dũng và Thành có thể quay chậm và quay gần cận cảnh hơn được không?
And we are seeing your questions in the chat. I'm keeping an eye on them, and I'll come back to them. Can you show us the one with the flowers on it? The one a little
Với
bit.
cả cho xem một cái mà có đang nở hoa và một cái là có quả đấy.
Đây là cái đang nở hoa nha chị.
This is the one flower right now.
Perfect. So these are the flowers. This is a peppercorn flower. Each one of those tiny little white tufts on the stalk is a peppercorn flower, and they're pollinated by the rain. They're pollinated by drops of water landing at the top of that stalk and running down and pollinating flower to flower. Each one of those flowers is going to turn into a peppercorn. So if you can go.
Còn đây là quả tiêu đã được hơn 4 tháng tuổi rồi.
So each one of those flowers turns into one peppercorn. And they ripen at different times, sort of depending on when they were pollinated. They go from green to eventually to a yellow, and then orange, and then red when they're ripe. But as I mentioned earlier, almost all peppercorns are picked very underripe. And Phuc, they're growing a couple of different varieties here, right? Would you ask them to tell us about the different varieties that they grow?
Yeah. So anh Thành và Dũng ở chỗ này là đang trồng tiêu loại gì á?
Dạ, tiêu Vĩnh Linh.
Có giống khác không hay chỉ mỗi Vĩnh Linh thôi?
Có trấu xanh Đắk Lắk.
So here they grow in 2 different varieties. They have like a few kind of different variety, and the taste of the peppercorn is a little different. But the one they sow it right now is the native peppercorn from this area.
Is that the Vinh Linh?
Yeah, it's Vĩnh Linh, and the tiêu trấu hả Dũng?
Yeah, trấu xanh Đắk Lắk.
Trấu xanh Đắk Lắk is the two native plant peppercorn from Vietnam.
And how did they choose to grow those varieties?
Anh Thành và Dũng chọn tại sao lại chọn 2 cái loại này?
Dạ, 2 cái loại này tại là giống bản địa của địa phương á, nó có khả năng thích nghi tốt với cái thời tiết, khí hậu cũng như thổ nhưỡng của vùng đất, và nó mang lại một cái hương vị đặc trưng của Việt Nam, vì nó ngon thơm ạ.
Because the two variety is the native plant from this area, and they are stronger, and they have like really, really like kind of like delicate flavor, like different with the one they import from other country. Like
Yes.
like some would be like có một giống tiêu nữa là giống tiêu gì mà nhập ngoại về Ấn Độ à Dũng?
Có giống Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka, like Sri Lanka pepper would be different with the peppercorn from Vietnam.
Why do some people choose to grow the Vietnamese pepper like they're growing versus the varieties that have been imported like the Sri Lankan one?
Có nhiều người có lựa chọn cái giống Sri Lanka đấy không Dũng?
Và sau khi mọi người trồng cái giống Vĩnh Linh với một số giống do họ làm dùng phân thuốc bị chết á, thì họ muốn tìm một cái giống gì đó để không bị bệnh á. Nhưng mà sau khi trồng giống Sri Lanka thì cùng với cách chăm sóc cũ đó thì người ta vẫn bị bệnh á. Và cũng có rất là nhiều người theo cái xu hướng đó.
Nhưng mà bây giờ họ có trồng nhiều nữa không?
Và bữa nay tiêu bị bệnh với giá xuống nên người ta cũng bỏ đi rất là nhiều, người ta chuyển qua cây khác.
So from 2010 to 2014, a lot of people have peppercorn farm, and then all the plant die because they use so much chemical. And then the government import the peppercorn from Sri Lanka for hoping that the new variety would be different, would stop for the problem with the peppercorn. And they still you do the same thing with chemical, and then the peppercorn from the Sri Lanka don't grow well in Vietnam, and then now they come back to the native plant.
We've had a couple of questions in the chat about their organic methods. One question about how they test the soil, or have they tested the soil? And then another question about how they deal with pests and diseases without using chemicals. So can you ask them if they've tested the soil, and then what are their methods for protecting against pests and diseases?
Anh Dũng và Thành và anh Dũng, anh Thành và Dũng có làm cái test đất và nước để biết được là không phải là organic không? Với cả là
có. Bọn em có làm test
với cả là cái làm sao để rừng để không bị con bọ ấy. Ví dụ như mà
bị côn trùng chích
bệnh
hại
thì
đúng
làm sao?
Nhờ bọn em bổ sung dinh dưỡng cho đất á, chủ yếu là chăm đất cho nó thật tốt để cây nó có sức đề kháng á, và cái môi trường tạo cái môi trường tự nhiên thì các loài thiên địch nó sẽ cân đối nhau và không để xảy ra dịch bệnh đó. Vì môi trường nó trở về tự nhiên, cân bằng rất là tốt rồi ạ.
So they do the test the soil, they do the test the soil, and then with like they have the local or government test for the organic, and then because they don't use chemicals, so they have a lot of bug, all different kind of bug, and they all fighting together, and they don't really need anything to stop the bug to eat the plant or eat the peppercorn.
Great. There's a question.
Like the worm, he just showed you that the worm in the soil, when in the soil have a lot of worm, that means that soil is strong.
They also keep chickens and ducks, right, to walk around.
Yeah, they have chicken and duck to eat the insect too.
Yeah. And somebody asked what those mounds of soil that they were showing us in the video, what those were.
The mound of soil, like right here.
Little piles of mud down on the ground.
That is the poop of the worm.
Okay. So just showing how healthy the soil is, that they're living in it.
The one, because he told us last time when we were in Vietnam about like when the soil is strong, will be so much warm in there, and then they will have the soil coming up. I mean the worm is to keep tilling, like look like the tractor to tilling the soil.
Yeah. Would they demonstrate how they harvest the peppercorns? I know they're not going to do it now. They're not ready to harvest, but could they demonstrate or explain how they do the harvesting?
Anh Thành và Dũng có thể cho mọi người xem làm bắc thang hay là này kia, cho mọi người xem làm sao để có thể thu hoạch được hạt tiêu vào mùa vụ được không? Hoặc
Dạ
là
dạ
cách thu hoạch đó.
em sẽ tới cái tháng ạ.
So what they'll do, I'll just give you a little intro while they're getting set up. They'll take a tarp or a canvas of some kind, put it around the base of one of those vines, and then as you can see, here's a ladder.
Đây là cái tháng
When we
để
were
hái
there
tiêu ạ.
last year, we fell off one of these ladders, which was very exciting. So they'll put a tarp around the base of the vine and then climb up the ladder. You might have a basket or something like that with you when you go up the ladder, so that you're pulling
Yeah.
off the clusters of peppercorns all at once. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Cái tháng này thì hồi trước người thân vào đi đã ngã từ trên này xuống, giờ anh Thành đã hang lại rồi.
Oh, this is the one Ethan and Ori fell down.
This is the ladder that
Đây
we
là
built
vệt hang ạ.
last year. All right. I'm glad to see it's been repaired. The ladder's pretty tall. It's probably 20 feet tall. So somebody will climb up the ladder holding a basket. Here we go. We're going up the ladder. And they'll pull each one of those bunches off by hand, and either put it into the basket that you're holding or drop it down onto the tarp that's been spread out on the ground around the base of the tree. And then that's the harvesting process. It's very manual, and because of the way that the flowers are pollinated, as I mentioned earlier, you can have peppercorns ripening at different times on the same vine. So it's an ongoing process throughout the harvest season over the course of several months of checking your vines, making sure that you're harvesting things at the point when you want to harvest them, and that's also a decision. Some of what they grow is harvested early in the ripening cycle, and with peppercorns that are picked early, you'll get a sharper flavor, like you would, an unripe peach versus a ripe peach. And some of what they grow, which is very challenging to do, is harvested when the pepper is ripe, and that's the purple peppercorn that we carry. They produce a much smaller quantity of that, and it's got a very different flavor. So they ripen successively over the course of the harvest period. And would you ask them how much pepper does one of those trees produce?
Một cái cọc tiêu đấy là có được bao nhiêu kỳ tiêu hả anh Thành?
Khoảng từ mỗi năm trung bình thì khoảng chắc là tầm 3 kg tiêu khô ạ.
So for one that big pole of the peppercorn, you harvest about 3 kilograms of peppercorn, and that would be about 6.6 pounds.
Yeah, and how many of those trees do they have?
Anh Thành, chỗ cái farm anh Thành bây giờ là có bao nhiêu cây ạ?
500 cây ạ.
It's 500 pole in
Wow.
his farm right now.
And how much land is that?
Cái diện tích đất thì bao nhiêu?
0,5 hectare, 5.000 mét vuông ạ.
2,000
2,000 square meters?
Yeah, square meter.
Okay. And they have another plot of land, right? They have 2 plots. There's a second one somewhere else. Is that right?
Yeah, they do have another small farm. Like in Vietnam, it's like, so people, the land is owned by the owner, the farmer, and then they grow, not like you can see like even in the peppercorn farm, they still have some other plant like turmeric, ginger, and other trees, so to protect them, like kind of like jungle, like they can grow together to help together develop.
Yeah. Would you ask them? It looks like their video isn't. There we go. We're back. Perfect. And there's some questions about, let's see, flavor difference when they're purple. It's the difference between a ripe fruit and an underripe fruit. So the purple peppercorns are much sweeter on the outside. A peppercorn, as I started to say earlier, and then got distracted by this incredible farm to visit. Peppercorn has two parts, essentially, the inner pit and the outer fruit. So when you bite into a black pepper that you have at home, the skin of the pepper, that wrinkly dark skin of the pepper, is essentially like a raisin. It's the fruit that has wrinkled and shriveled up and turned dark as it dries. And that's where the sweetness, the complexity, the savory flavors are going to come from. And if you bite into it, you'll see there's an outer fruit and an inner white pit. And the white pit is where the spiciness is concentrated. It comes from a compound called piperine, different from capsaicin, which is what causes the spiciness in chili peppers. And white pepper, if you've had white pepper before, that's the peppercorn pit where the fruit has been removed. And there are various ways to do that, various styles. But what they grow is what will be a black peppercorn. Are there other parts, can you ask them if they use other parts of the pepper plant or the pepper vine, or is it just the peppercorns?
Anh Thành và Dũng, ngoài cái việc thu hoạch hạt tiêu thì có thu hoạch cái gì khác của cái tiêu nữa không?
Dạ không, cái tiêu chỉ thu hoạch được hạt thôi ạ.
For the peppercorn, they only harvest the peppercorn, nothing else.
No, some other spices you can use other parts of the plant. Cinnamon, which is the bark of the cinnamon tree. You can also use the leaves and the buds. Turmeric, you can use obviously the rhizomes, the root of the turmeric, but you can also use the leaves. But with pepper is unique in several ways from other spices. Other spices, there are several different species grown in different countries, even within the same country, you might have a couple of different species. That's the case in Vietnam for cinnamon. But pepper, all pepper is the same species. As far as we understand, it's native to Southeast Asia, although it could also be native to South Asia and has then spread. And it's all the same species. It's Piper nigrum. Let's see, can we switch to Tang's video? Is that what happened? Did they switch phones? Oh, there we go. Let's see. So the color changes as it ripens. Phuc, would you ask them to talk about the ripening process, starting from green and then going all the way to red when they harvest it, and how the flavor changes over that ripening process?
Anh Thành và Dũng có thể chia sẻ với mọi người về cái cây tiêu bắt đầu từ lúc có hoa và đến lúc chín được không? Bao giờ thì mọi người biết là đã đến độ để có thể thu hoạch được? Và thường thì anh làm sao để biết được là nó để thu hoạch một lúc, hay là sẽ chọn bứt những quả chín trước và những quả chưa chín thì sẽ hái sau?
Bắt đầu cái tiêu lúc ra hoa thì khoảng tháng 4 dương lịch, lúc mưa bắt đầu xuống. Sau đó thì được chăm sóc và đến khoảng tầm tháng 2 dương lịch lại năm sau ạ. Thì lúc đó cái tiêu sẽ bắt đầu có những quả chớm chín đó. Lúc đó những con chim nó sẽ đến ăn, và mình báo hiệu là lúc đó mình sẽ bắt đầu thu hoạch những cái cây có quả chín được ạ, và cứ thu hoạch lần lượt như vậy cho đến khi hết vườn ạ. Và cái tiêu ra hoa.
So the peppercorn start flower from April. Like at the raining season, they will start blooming flower, and then they keep blooming until like August, or like now, like you can see some still blooming. But so for them from April to the next year, or like January of the next year, they will start seeing some of the peppercorn would turning to red color, and then the bird will become eating them, and then rub the seed under, and then they will see that some peppercorn will be like more ready than the other, and then they start picking the ripe one first, and then they will leave the one not really ripe, and then they will pick them later.
How long is that harvest time? It starts in January sometime. How long does it go? When does it end?
Cái thời gian mà thu hoạch thì khoảng 1-2 tháng hả Dũng? Từ tháng 2 đến tháng 4 hả?
Khoảng tầm 2 tháng là chị. Từ chắc khoảng tháng 2, đúng rồi, tháng 2 dương lịch đến tháng 4.
Yeah, they will start harvest from February to April.
Okay. And then what do they do the rest of the year?
Còn những cái thời gian còn lại thì là mọi người sẽ làm gì?
Khoảng thời gian còn lại thì sẽ
cắt tỉa cây trụ sống á em. Đây này, phía trên cao này mình sẽ cắt tỉa xuống phía dưới để cho cây nó có ánh nắng. Và thứ hai nữa là phần dưới đất thì mình sẽ trả lại sinh khối cho đất bằng cách là mình sẽ cắt cái cây che phủ đi, là cụ thể là cây lạc dại này, mình sẽ cắt đi để cho nó trả lại sinh khối cho đất. Rồi tiếp theo nữa là để nó khỏi phủ lên cái tiêu của mình á. Nói chung rồi mình thêm vào đó nữa là mình bón các cái loại phụ phẩm, phế phụ phẩm của nông nghiệp á, đây nè. Đó.
Okay, so the rest of the time, the harvest, they will start cutting the. So you will see on the peppercorn, the pole is the peppercorn, is the vine, and then they grow on the tree. And then after the harvesting, they will cut the top of the tree so they can have more sun come down to for the peppercorn, and then the new leaf will coming up, like new. So the new leaf of the tree to coming up and get the tree bigger, and then they will take care of the soil, like cut down the clover like you see right now, and then push more hay or anything like plant like leaf and like compost actually, so to cover the soil, to help the insect and the worm to develop and like better for the soil. Yeah. Like help the soil to be like growing and maintained.
Would you ask them to talk about the next step after the pepper has been harvested? What happens next?
So khi mà anh Thành và Dũng thu hoạch tiêu xong thì mọi người sẽ làm gì?
Sẽ để cho cái tiêu nghỉ khoảng 1 đến 2 tháng, và lúc đó mình sẽ tưới tắm chăm sóc lại để cho nó đến thời gian ra hoa lại ạ.
Không, kể khi mà thu hoạch hạt tiêu xong á thì mình làm gì với cái hạt tiêu á?
Nhà bọn em sẽ đem lên sân, và sau đó thì sẽ dùng một cái máy để bóc cái hạt ra và cái nhánh tiêu ra riêng, rồi rửa và đem đi phơi ạ.
So after the harvest the peppercorn, they will put in the big baskets and they carrying up to the house, and up there they will have the machine to take off the stem, like you see the stem of the. Em có thể cho mọi người xem cái stem, cái cọng tiêu được không? Quay qua đấy được không? So you will see like they have the stem, like hold the stem and they will pick like that, like in his hand right now, and then they will put in the machine, and then the machine will take off the stem and the peppercorn, and then after that they would put in the big bucket and then clean them really good with the water, like cold water, and then they dry them on the sun.
Yeah. Would you ask them to describe what they taste like right now? If we were to taste one of those peppercorns, what would we taste?
Dũng có thể ăn một hạt bây giờ thì vị của nó thế nào được không? Có thể cho mọi người biết cái vị của nó được không?
Bữa nay thì hạt tiêu đã bắt đầu có vị kháy nhẹ ra, vì cay nồng nhẹ một xíu rồi. Nó tuy nó chưa chắc cái hạt nhân ở bên trong. Khoảng tầm 2 đến 3 tháng nữa thì cái hạt nhân ở bên trong nó mới hình thành cái sò chắc á. Nhưng mà bữa nay thì nó đã có vị cay rồi, cay nồng.
So right now is they still have little spicy, but not that like not the seed is not really start yet, but you can taste the spicy a little bit.
Yeah.
But no sweeter, like when they rip.
Yeah, when they're ripened, they get a lot sweeter. What are their favorite ways to cook with peppercorns?
Anh Thành và Dũng thích nấu hạt tiêu với cái gì nhất?
Hạt tiêu thì nướng cùng với ốc ạ. Tiêu xanh nướng với ốc ạ. Dạ, với là
nấu với bao tử, hầm bao tử.
Là bây giờ nữa hả?
Dạ đúng rồi, tiêu xanh ạ.
So
ngoài ra thì tiêu xanh này có thể ngâm giấm đấy em, ngâm giấm cùng với cả ớt.
Ngâm với giấm với ớt, tạo thành cái gọi là tiêu muối á, để ăn với cơm.
Thế còn khi mà nó già?
Khi ra thì mình sẽ xay để làm tiêu bột và cho vào tất cả các món ăn ở Việt Nam á. Món ăn ở Việt Nam thì đa số sử dụng hột tiêu để làm kích thích cái vị thơm lên của món ăn và làm các gia vị để chấm như muối tiêu để chấm thịt gà, thịt vịt cho vậy ạ.
So for the peppercorn, the green one right now, they would love to do them to like just green, and they would smash them in the modern pesto, and then they put on the top of clam or the snail, and then grill them on the fire. Or they have like really good dish with the like beef with the green peppercorn, and just cook them like kind of like stove. And when they get riper and dry them, that we in Vietnam food, we do them in like every food every day, like anything for the spicy kind of like
Yeah. One thing that you can do with a fresh peppercorn that you can't do with a dried peppercorn is use a mortar and pestle to make a paste.
Yeah.
Essentially like a pesto texture. And yeah, they're just delicious. They have I mean, it sounds a little obvious, but they have kind of a green flavor, like a green pepper or like a green chili, that kind of flavor profile. And then as they ripen, I find that the ripe peppercorns, they definitely get sweeter, but I find that they have almost like a strawberry flavor, a strawberry aroma. The purple peppercorns, after they've been dried, get a little more, almost like a balsamic kind of an aroma and flavor. Yeah, there, as people have pointed out, there are some other spices that also have those two components, mace and nutmeg, being an important one. There were a couple of questions about the supply chain. So could you ask them where they were selling before they started working with us? Because we've only been working together for actually close to 2 years at this point, but 2 harvests we've worked together. So could you ask them to talk about what they were doing before they started working with us, and how things have changed, or if they've changed since they started working with us?
Okay, so khi mà anh Thành và Dũng trước khi mà làm việc cùng với Ethan đấy, thì là anh Thành và Dũng thường bán như thế nào, bán ở đâu và bán cho ai, và còn bây giờ thì khi mà đã làm việc với Ethan bên for Burlap Barrel thì làm có gì thay đổi không?
Trước đó thì anh với Dũng cũng chỉ bán ra ngoài thị trường tiêu xô theo như người nông dân Việt Nam bình thường vậy thôi, chứ còn không có bán cho một không có bán cho một đơn vị hay một người nước ngoài nào khác cả.
Anh Thành và Dũng có thể quay cái camera lại mặt mọi người khi mọi người hai người nói chuyện á.
Rồi, ok em.
So before they work with Ethan for Burlap Barrel, they just sell out of the market. Like people will come and ask, like middleman, just come and then add and just sell, and they don't really know like where the peppercorn will go. But now, like when they work with Ethan, and that is like they know like where the peppercorn will go and who the customer, and they're more happy with that.
And there were also some logistical questions that I guess I'll answer briefly about the lot numbers and tracking and things like that. So because they grow, on a fairly small farm, we import a single shipment towards the end of the harvest season. And then we assign a lot number to it, and we're able to track it through the cycle. So they don't have to worry too much about that. And that's one of the ways that we work with our partner farmers, with FDA registrations, lot tracking. Food safety is always a question around spices, because as you can see, they're grown on plants, and there's opportunities for all kinds of other things to land on them. The washing step that they do, sometimes they'll do a cold water wash, as Fook mentioned. Sometimes they'll do a hot water, sort of a blanch. They'll dunk the peppers in hot water. And then they get sun dried. We do a test in Vietnam before it leaves the country, and then another test when it arrives. And there may be a sterilization process if that's necessary based on the test results that they see. There was a question about what they studied in university. Phúc, could you ask them?
Anh Thành và Dũng học trường đại học gì ở Sài Gòn ạ? Hồi trước á.
Anh học bên thể dục thể thao em. Còn Dũng thì học bên công nghệ thông tin hay sao đó.
Dũng is, hold on, something wrong with my germ. Dũng is learning at IT and like kind of IT for the like computer and stuff like that. And Thành is learning at school with the for like physical like như kiểu là anh để làm thành vận động viên này kia hả?
Không em,
thầy
giáo
thể dục
viên
thể thao á.
So Thành is he want to be a teacher of like physical teacher, like kind of the coach teacher at the school.
And when in their education did they decide to change their plans and become farmers instead?
So khi nào thì đã làm cho anh Thành và Dũng thay đổi cái ý định từ là làm thầy giáo hoặc là làm IT chuyển về làm nông dân? Thì đấy là đã học đại học xong chưa?
Lúc đó học xong rồi em. Nhưng mà Việt Nam thì là nước nông nghiệp mà hầu như nhà nào có ít hay nhiều thì cũng sẽ có một phần đất nông nghiệp ấy. Nên lúc đó anh không có hứng thú về bên ngành giáo dục nữa, nên anh muốn về chăn nuôi và sản xuất nông nghiệp ấy. Thì khi về rồi mới đầu thì mình cũng chán, nhưng sau này có đam mê rồi thì mình thấy nó có hứng thú nhiều hơn và mình không thấy mệt mỏi nữa.
So for Thành, when he finished his school in Saigon, and he come home, and then but at his hometown, every farmer, like kind of every family have little land and have growing something, and then he feel like boring with what he learned, and he want to come back to what he grow up with, and then he started being the farmer, like helping his parents. And then at first he kind of like not interesting when he don't have much friend and someone who to share with, and then but now they build up on him, and now he like really love it.
Yeah. And they're part of a bigger movement, right? There are probably hundreds of thousands, if not even millions of small farms growing pepper in Vietnam. But most of those farmers are growing using pesticides and growing for yield. They don't really care about quality. They're growing for the commodity market. But Dung and Tang are part of a movement of young farmers who are trying to change that. They're trying to do things differently. Would you ask them to talk about that? Where they see the future of organic pepper and other people like them who are approaching it in similar ways?
Anh Thành và Dũng, cái lý do gì làm cho anh Thành và Dũng bắt đầu về cái việc làm tiêu sạch ấy, làm hữu cơ ấy, cái lý do gì và mọi cái sản phẩm ra thì như thế nào, được đáp ứng nhiều hay là như nào?
Dạ. Tại vì cái tiêu thì nó vốn sinh trưởng tự nhiên ở trong rừng, nên khi mà mình không canh tác theo cái hướng tự nhiên này thì nó hữu cơ này thì nó rất là dễ bị bệnh, và hầu như là đa số mọi người canh tác hóa học thì đều cái tiêu chỉ sống được khoảng 3-4 năm thì nó đã bị chết. Và cái chất lượng hạt tiêu hữu cơ khi làm ra thì nó có hương vị tốt hơn rất là nhiều. Cái công chăm sóc thì cũng nó đỡ vất vả hơn ạ, với giảm thiểu nhiều cái, và cái quan trọng nhất là cái vấn đề về cái môi trường ạ. Ngay chỗ cái khu vực gia đình mình sống, cũng như nguồn nước, không khí, mọi thứ xung quanh nó đều tốt hơn. Và đây cũng là một cái xu hướng toàn cầu mà để thích nghi với cái sự biến đổi khí hậu, và cũng như là cái nguồn thực phẩm đang bị ô nhiễm, rồi vấn đề tái tạo và bảo vệ lại môi trường sống của toàn cầu nó đang bị canh tác nông nghiệp hóa chất làm cho bị suy thoái rất là nhiều. Chỉ có con đường nông nghiệp này thì nó mới khôi phục lại được mọi thứ. Xong rồi.
Yeah. So when they choose to growing organic, that is make the Dũng với cả là cái vườn của Dũng có được chứng nhận là hữu cơ rồi đúng không?
Bọn em mới chỉ có cái bằng test, cái đó gọi là tương đương với cái hữu cơ, còn cái chứng nhận thì bọn em chưa có đủ tiền để làm ạ.
So I saw one question I answered that first about the certificate organic. So they do all the tests for the organic farm, but to get the certificate, they have to pay money to get the certificate, and they don't have money to get the certificate, but they do the test because the test is free, but the certificate is you have to pay money. And actually they organic, but they don't have the certificate to say like organic farm.
They have I believe they have a Vietnamese government certificate of some kind to say that it's organic certified by a local agency, but it's not USDA certified.
Yeah.
Which it's very expensive.
Yeah, and when they choose to growing organic, because it's the number one is the native plant, and they should grow in the jungle where they don't have any certified or fertilizer or anything. And for when they grow the peppercorn with the organic way, they taste the peppercorn, it tastes better and have like more flavorful, and both of them, they care about environment and them health, because in Vietnam the farm is small and people live near the farm or live on the farm, and they don't want to put the chemical out they can feel it or get to them health, and they, because they are young, and then they learning on internet about how the weather and how the environment change every year, and they learn a lot about in Japan, like Japan people, and they learn about like how to grow it the way with the no fertilizer, and that make them feel more comfortable, and that is the only one way to help the environment better.
Yeah, and they were just accepted into a very prestigious organic agricultural training program in Japan. So that's pretty exciting. There was a couple of questions, and then we're going to wrap up. We've only got about 5 minutes left, so we're not going to get to everything. But one question about, well, do they like working with us? Do they get satisfaction from working with us, or from meeting all of you who are on the line right now? Do they like that? And then the second question, there's a question about environmental challenges or threats. What are they worried about in terms of environmental changes?
Okay. Anh Thành và Dũng có thích làm việc với Ethan không? Anh thấy Ethan có khó tính không?
Dạ không. Em làm việc với Ethan học được rất là nhiều, và cái cách làm việc của đa số mọi người ở nước ngoài thì nó chuyên nghiệp hơn so với làm việc với những người Việt Nam rất là nhiều, và bọn em cảm thấy cách làm việc đó rất là tốt cho bọn em sau này học hỏi được nhiều thứ.
He say he loved to working with Burlap and Barrel because it's professional, like everything in the order and in the way of like, and they love to see the customer who comment or who review about what them product, and they happy with that more than the selling to the local where they don't know where the peppercorn will go and who would taste them and who will have them.
And how about the environmental challenges or climate change? What are they worried about in that?
Anh Thành và Dũng lo lắng điều gì về cái khí hậu và thời tiết và môi trường?
Cái khí hậu thì tại vì nó là một cái trên diện rộng á, nên khi mọi người đang canh tác nông nghiệp và phá rừng thì cái khí hậu ngày càng nóng lên, và cái mặt nước ngầm nó cũng đang bị cạn kiệt đi á. Nó sẽ ảnh hưởng chung đến rất nhiều thứ.
Và có làm cho còn các cái con vật này kia, khi mà làm cái này thì những cái con vật nhiều hơn không? Những cái con động vật nhỏ ấy, con bọ này kia.
cái cách làm của bọn em là con vật nhiều hơn hay là biến đổi khí hậu con vật nhiều hơn?
Cách làm của bọn em
Cách làm thì côn trùng và các loài vi sinh vật nhiều hơn á. Nó trở về cái môi trường cân bằng tự nhiên á. Tại vì nó không bị tiêu diệt bởi bất cứ một cái loài thuốc hay hóa chất gì hết nên có môi trường thuận lợi cho nó sinh sôi và phát triển rất là nhiều.
So for them, is because they care more about the environment and the insect. So when they grow by them way, they will see the more insect in the farm, and you see like all the butterfly or the worm and bird and all beautiful nature, and that make them happier and make them feel safer for environment because they don't put any chemical out to kill any variety or any kind of bird.
Great. We're gonna have to wrap up, but I just want to ask: is there anything else that they want to say, or any goodbye, or anything to close the session that they want to share with everybody before we finish?
Mọi người bảo là rất là tuyệt vời, cảm ơn anh Thành và Dũng. Và anh Thành và Dũng có cái điều gì muốn chia sẻ với mọi người không? Bởi vì chúng ta sẽ sắp kết thúc cái cuộc nói chuyện hôm nay á.
Và em rất là muốn biết cái phản hồi của mọi người tiêu dùng về chất lượng hạt tiêu của Việt Nam như thế nào, và có thể góp ý cho bọn em những điều chưa tốt á, để bọn em có thể hoàn thiện hơn để nâng cao cái chất lượng sản phẩm hơn đến mọi người ạ.
So thank you everyone to enjoy them and with them farm, and they want the thing is they want you guys to give them the review of product, like how it tastes and what you guys do with your food of the peppercorn they grow, and they will be happy to hear it. And if something they don't do good, should tell them and they can have better product.
Great. Sari, you wanna wrap us up?
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that was so cool. Was anyone else like terrified when we saw them going up the ladder? I was like, and it didn't make me feel better knowing you fell off the ladder either.
The whole ladder bent. Ori, my
Oh
co-founder,
God,
fell off the ladder when the ladder bent last year. It was very exciting.
That is terrifying. That was a very high ladder. And also I love the like casual playing with a praying mantis that that was really super cool. So thank you so much. Thank you, Ethan. Thank you for coordinating to bring Dung and Tong to meet with us tonight. And thank you, Fuchs. That was incredible. We couldn't have done it without you. Yeah. So I put the link to their pepper in the chat. For those of you who ordered the spice, the pepper was included in that. So lucky you. If you didn't, I'm sure you want to order it now. And Ethan, you said you're going to ship the spices tomorrow, right? For everyone who ordered?
Yep. Anyone who ordered, you'll see an order confirmation tomorrow, or possibly over the weekend if we don't get to it tomorrow, and they'll ship out either tomorrow or Monday. So keep an eye out for that. We have 2 peppercorns. The Esar pepper, which is currently sold out, we have to pack more. This is a challenging time to be in the spice business. There's a lot of demand, and we're moving as fast as we can. So we're going to be packing more of their Esar pepper, which is the mix of those 2 varieties that they talked about earlier. And that's picked about halfway through the ripening process. And then the purple peppercorns, which we have a very small quantity of, those are their fully vine ripened peppercorns, both from this farm.
Excellent. Great. Thank you. Go to Burlap Barrel, get all of their spices. This is the best spice company in the world. Like, they just are. So I'm so thrilled we got to spend the evening with you. And you know, it's like terrible to be in a pandemic, but sometimes you get to like Zoom and see a pepper farm in Vietnam. So, I mean, that is a silver lining for sure. So thank you so much for being with us. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and again, for always being with us and helping us get through this time. We love to see you on here, and everyone, please stay safe. I know I always say wear a mask, but I'm going to say it again. Please wear a mask because we care about you. We want you to be safe. And hopefully you'll join us next week, Monday or Tuesday, for either of our Indigenous food sovereignty Thanksgiving-esque programs. And until then, good night, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us.
Bye. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.